Sabaidi, Najong, welcome back, Sabscribers. It's been a long ass time. I think it's been a month since I've actually put an episode out, let alone sat down and recorded something. I'll be honest, I've just felt a little less motivated lately to actually record. There's been things I want to talk about, but then I just haven't found the motivation to even sit here and pull up the fucking camera, set up the mic, set up everything, and actually have a sit down conversation with y'all. And I feel awful. I feel I've been beating myself up a lot in the last month for not being as consistent as I need to. And I think a lot of things contribute to that, but it's the day after my birthday. And I'm sitting in this beautiful Airbnb with my little dogs because I decided that I just wanted to get away for a couple of days and just take a breather and really resolve some things for myself personally to see what's going through my mind and honestly just decompress, because I don't get a lot of time where I'm just quite literally sitting down and doing nothing, or just doing things that I simply enjoy that help me relax and take my mind off of the reality of my world, right? And today I'm officially 30 years old and a day, and I don't know if I feel any differently than I did yesterday or the day before or whatever, but here we are, we're diving into it, right? So I don't want to be the person that's gonna sit here and be like, oh my god, everything I did in my 20s, I'm gonna close the chapter on it. I'm gonna be a whole new person in my 30s. I don't know. Oh my god, I just said my 30s, and that feels so fucking surreal to say. I'm grown. I still don't entirely feel like, I don't know. I do know a lot of things, though. I do know myself so much more now. And just like I stated in my recent Instagram post about celebrating my birthday, I was spending so much of my 20s really finding myself. And I know that's so cliche, and like people say it all the time. And I'm always learning new things about myself. But as someone who is officially 30, I can say that I feel more confident in knowing who I am and knowing what I like, what I don't like, and what I won't be able to put up with any longer. And I've closed the door on a lot of relationships in my life in the last 10 years, of course, but especially in the last 2 or 3 years, I'd say that I've closed the door on so many relationships that I thought meant the world to me. I never saw my life without these individuals. I guess for me, it's just more of me entirely taking the step back from those relationships that no longer serve me, and realizing that I wish I had partnership in this world, not necessarily in a romantic sense at all, but just a partnership in this world that I can just talk to and reflect on creative aspects of my life and my ventures. And I always say that I miss that for sure, but I feel like some of my closest people are people who are not necessarily as adventurous in the creative aspect and realm of life, and that's okay too. I used to envy people who had that one person that they can go to for everything. Creatively, your best friend, your person that you can do anything and everything with. But realizing and knowing myself in my 30s now, I know that there's so much that I can only take of people. And that's not to say it in a negative way, but I also realize that I may be very extroverted and I may be very social, but I can only do that to an extent. And I have stepped more into embracing that aspect of me in a productive way. And I save my socialization and my extroverted personality for times that are actually beneficial to the growth of me in a creative way. And it's not to say that I simply only want to socialize with people who help me get further in my dreams and my aspirations, but that's kind of the healthiest balance I can find right now. And again, in my 30s, I'm going to continue to change. I'm going to continue to grow. I'm going to continue to progress and become more of the woman that I have always been meant to be. And it's just going to take time, you know what I mean? But also knowing, even in a romantic sense, knowing myself and knowing that, like, hey, I made these mistakes in my 20s and I made these mistakes in these relationships. And that's okay. I learned from it. I learned that I no longer will put up with certain shit. I know that I will no longer want to stay in a situation that does not serve me in any way. And I've realized, I think a lot of people have a hard time with this, especially as I've stepped more into a creative space with creative individuals and essentially these networking spaces. I've realized more and more that although you may find someone attractive, it does not equate to compatibility with that person. And compatibility is the biggest thing that I have learned to embrace so much more of in the last couple of years, especially. And there's certain, maybe this may be taken the wrong way when I say this, but there's certain people that you just simply date, and there's people that you actually commit to. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that you're going to run into that you just simply can date and have some compatibilities with, but you cannot commit to. And it's perfectly okay. And I used to feel so guilty about shit like that. I used to feel so guilty about, like, oh, because I dated this person, I wasn't going to stay in this relationship with them. And this is like, that makes me a hoe. It does not make you a hoe. All right. That goes for my ladies, especially. But it doesn't make you a hoe. It just simply means that you realize certain things about yourself and realize certain things about that relationship that was not going to serve you in the long run. So I think it's more, it helps put things in perspective for me, at least, as far as I can't really say I can't even say that I've dated enough to even feel like a sense of rejection in any way. But it makes me let go of the expectation of what I might actually want out of a person, because if I know who they are, if I am understanding them, if I'm learning who this person is and I realize that they are not someone that may serve me in the long term and someone that I may be able to commit to, then I cannot be mad at the fact that it doesn't work out, right? And I think I said this in a recent group therapy experience that I attended for Black Space. I said that I was mastering, in the last year, I was mastering the art of detaching from the idea of what I feel like things should be, mastering the art of detachment as far as even just projections of what my expectations are of people. And it's not to say that you shouldn't have standards and that you shouldn't have expectations of people, but maybe not putting those expectations too harshly on individuals who are just a casual connection in your life. And lately I do find myself a lot more in casual connection versus deep, close relation with people. And that's okay, because that just, as open as I may be about my life and as much as I share about my life, I've learned that there's very few people that I actually would trust very deeply. I used to confuse so much of the deep intellectual conversations and introspective conversations with someone as someone, I would confuse that as a relationship that was truly deep and meaningful. And it's not that these connections and these conversations are not meaningful to me, but the compatibility of them being a part of my life on a deeper level is just unrealistic for either side. So shout out to my homegirl, Jesusita. She's been on the podcast before. She was on the podcast last summer. I have learned to fully embrace more of our friendship. And in the last year and a half or so, we have gotten so much closer. We've known each other for years. And it's insane to kind of see the progression of our friendship and our relationship. And there's a lot of similarities in the lifestyle that we live, but there's so many huge differences. And I love it so much because I have someone to share things with, and I have someone to still keep a level of separation between us. And the things that I experience and the things that I go through, I can bring back to the table and we can connect over it. And even seeing a reflection of my fearlessness, I don't even know if that's a fucking word, but seeing my level of bravery and courage reflected in her and some of the things that she's doing, it's such a beautiful thing to see that resonate. And the things that I hope she would see in a reflection of me and who I've become now is I am a lot more stern in the decisions and the choices that I make, and I am quicker to make decisions and more straightforward with my decisions than I used to be. She's obviously helped me build a level of confidence in myself that I never thought I could really master. And I hope she feels the same way, but I will never speak for her. But I can just say that it's amazing to have that reflection in someone so close to you and someone that you value so much in your life, not for the things that they do for you, but who they are as a person. And it's so beautiful. It's so amazing. And I think something I always love most about her is just how connected she is with her family. And I love seeing that so much because my relationship with my family is always very strained, although one may think otherwise. I do love my family, but we have our complications, and everyone knows that. And I think I've experienced some of the peak of the heartbreak, I guess the residuals even, of losing a major piece in my life that held my family together, which is my father. But needless to say, we grow and we continue to learn. And there's certain days where the grief of his loss and the grief of the loss of my grandma can be a little unbearable for someone. But we all find our ways to work through it and process those feelings. I think even as I step into my 30s, I feel so much more confident and proud of every piece of my heritage. And I've taken more opportunities to educate myself more on my heritage and my cultural background, and I try every day. And I used to put so much of societal standards and societal norms onto myself, especially when it came to having reached certain accolades in my life. I should have a beautiful home, a nice car, be married with kids, and etc. And I hit half of those things. And I've almost essentially lived a life as a surrogate mother in some way. I think I fulfilled those things in my 20s, and I felt like those things were a part of my 20s, and that was great. I lived that life that I was supposed to probably live in my 30s, or in societal standards in my 30s, and that's okay. I'm so grateful that I had those experiences early on, because my whole life has always been fast forwarded. I've always had to force myself to grow up so much faster than I need to. But then it makes it amazing for the next version of myself, the next part of my life, to embrace, hey, I lived that part of my life already, and I just realized it's not for me. Because I didn't make necessarily too many permanent decisions or choices that would change my life so drastically to where I could never go back and be like, hey, that wasn't for me, so I'm choosing to not do that again. And I think as I sit here and I talk and I reflect, I think that's what makes it even more beautiful, right? I lived through these experiences, and I made these mistakes, and I made these lifestyle choices in my 20s. And now going in my 30s, I can confidently say I know that's not for me. I know that those are not things that I will be seeking out. And I can't wait to even see what the next 10 years are going to bring me. And I can't even wait to see when I hit 40, how I'm going to reflect on my 30s and be like, damn, I'm so glad I didn't do all that, because I lived that in my 20s. And now in my 30s, I was able to really live it out for myself. And I was really able to just fully embrace what actually makes me feel fulfilled and happy. And I'm so grateful for all of the traveling that I was able to do in my 20s. Wow. In 2024 alone, the fuck? I got to see the whole fucking world. And I was so excited for that. I was so proud of that. And as I went into as I was approaching my 30-year mark, I'm like, yo, how am I going to top Portugal? I literally lost my job this year. I literally am in probably the craziest financial state of my life. Actually, I take that back. I probably am making more money than I was in corporate now. But aside from that, I'm like, yo, how am I going to top the Portugal trip for my birthday at 29? And I'm like, dude, who gives a fuck? I would love to be across the world and traveling and experiencing more new things. But after the year I've had, what I needed more than anything was just peace and solitude and just some isolation and time to myself. And it just felt good to do nothing for once, because I've been working so hard for the last year alone, but especially in the last 5 or 6 months, I've been grinding so hard. I forgot to take a fucking breath. And these last couple of days, these last couple of nights, just spending it doing whatever the fuck I wanted has never felt better. I don't remember the last time I actually sat here. I don't remember the last time I actually turned the TV on to watch a show that I love. You know what I did? I sat here and watched my fucking comfort show, Insecure. And I love Insecure so much, and I feel like a lot of people can relate. But I love it so much because, especially as watching her growth into being 29, 30, so on and so forth, like just seeing the progression in her life is truly inspirational. Because I used to feel like at 28, 29, it was too late for me to start over. It was too late for me to start a new career, especially at 29 when I got laid off about 6 months ago. I'm like, yo, what the fuck? What am I doing? My whole life is falling apart, or I thought. And it just kind of put me in a place to really find myself outside of my identification with my career and my corporate life. And it's been so much more amazing than I ever thought. There have been times where I question, hey, what the fuck am I gonna do? How am I gonna financially bounce back from this? But then I realized, yo, like, fuck the financial part of it. I've never been happier. I'm actually doing shit that I actually love. I'm actually working towards an actual goal. I'm actually working towards a goal for myself and not for someone's corporation and not someone else's freaking business. I'm doing this for myself right now. And I may be doing it blindly, and I may be doing it just taking the chance and the risk of it all, but I'm doing it for me. What more can I even ask for? And I think I had so much fun with it. And in the last 6 months, I'm really working hard at where I want to even take the direction of the podcast and where I even want to be in the next year again from now. And I've realized I know exactly where I want it to go, and I've always wanted it to go in this direction. I just haven't had the right tools or the right resources around me to really push me and elevate everything to that place, right? And I knew that everything I was doing was not in vain. I knew that everything I was working towards was for a reason. And I'm so grateful for the people I've met. Oh my God, I can't even explain how beautiful my life has been and how enriching it's been in the last 6 months alone. I have met some of the best people ever. People who are truly genuinely supportive of what you're doing. And not even to say that in a selfish way of I only want people around me that support me, but I can't really afford to invest in relationships that are not fruitful for me anymore. And that's a part of growing and maturing and becoming more secure in who you are. So I'm just so grateful for everything, for every lesson that I've learned, every heartbreak that I've had, from not even just romantically. And this has been the longest that I've been single, and it feels so good. I have, on my birthday 2 years ago, I was dumped, and 2 years of being single, and it feels good to not feel tied to anyone. It feels good to not feel like my identification surrounds what someone else is doing. I can't explain the feeling of independence other than just simply freedom. What? It feels good to be able to walk into a room and into a space and not have to second think whether this is something that I should be a part of because it may hurt another person. I don't want to. It feels good even as I am rediscovering new spaces, not just within Chicago, but even Milwaukee. It feels good to walk in these spaces and not be associated to someone. I'm not someone's girlfriend. I'm not someone's ex-girlfriend. I'm simply being known for me. I'm essentially I'm being loved, embraced for being Sab. And sometimes it is a little lonely, I'll be honest. Not in a romantic sense in any way, but even as I walk into spaces, just in general, I walk into these spaces alone and I see people mingling and being like they have their person with them, their best friend even. I'll just say it like that, like they have their best friend with them. And I can't walk into these spaces and be like, hey, here's my best friend with me. I've got my person that's always with me. I'm always really doing my own thing. And sometimes it can feel a little lonely and isolating, but it's just who I am now. I'm just simply solo Sab. And I put myself in a position for this. I put myself in these places because I knew that I wanted more for myself. And that's pretty vulnerable of me to admit that it does feel a little lonely sometimes. But as I've been discovering more spaces and more people, I'm finding more people who make me feel more comfortable walking into a space alone. To see a familiar face, to see the love and the joy and the warmth of knowing the people around you. And it makes you feel a little less alone. Definitely does. And I gotta shout out my therapist. I haven't talked to her in a couple months, but shout out my therapist because she's amazing. She's a beautiful person who has genuinely gotten me through a lot of things. Probably some of the most challenging things. I realized so much, and I say this all the time, that the most heartbreaking things that I've experienced in life, I didn't even process until the last couple of years. And the last couple of years I've been seeing my therapist, and she's amazing. She has seen me through a lot of shit. So shout out her. I ain't gonna tell y'all who she is, but man, she's beautiful. She is amazing. Honestly, shout out me. And shout out my sister, actually. My sister she may not always show up in the ways that I think are important. But she shows up for me in so many fucking ways. I would not have gone through any of my 20s without my sister. And we have seen some shit. Me and my sister have had falling outs. We have had our issues, you know what I mean? But the unfortunate thing is, 5 years ago, my birthday, my sister suffered from a stroke. And that changed our relationship a lot. And it was just unfortunate that that's what had to be the thing that brought us back together. But having a sister, it feels good. And now, holy shit, I'm the baby of the family. I just put it in perspective. I'm the baby of the family. And so now my mom doesn't have any kids under 30. And that is crazy to me. Holy shit. Ooh. And honestly, I'm still super on the fence about whether or not I want to get married. Or I'm super on the fence about whether I even want to have kids anymore. I just know that right now that's just not for me. I tried it, I lived that life, and it just wasn't for me. And so many people might say, if I continue to wait any longer, I may not have the option to even have kids, or let alone get married, because it's slim pickings out here. But you know what? Shit is the way it is. I will be happy if I don't get married. I will be happy if I don't have kids of my own. And having those things would be amazing as well. I would love it. But at the same time, there's so much more out there in the world that makes me happier at this time. And who knows? I got some crazy advice from people in their 40s, and they were like, it's too late for you to have kids now. You should have had them early, because you could have been in your prime at this point. And I was kind of like, damn, that's crazy to say. If I would have had a kid 10 years ago, my kid would be 10 now, and I'd still have at least 8 more years of taking care of this kid. And even at 18, my kid would still not be fully off on their own. I'm just like, that sounds crazy to say, because then I'm fully responsible for another person. And I can barely say that I'm responsible for myself right now. And I'm like, nah, it almost made me feel really bad about the choices that I made to not have kids earlier. And then I'm like, and then people make me feel bad about, oh, if I do decide to have kids now or in the next few years, I'm going to be in my 40s and 50s when they are graduating high school and going off to college. And I'm like, am I going to be too old? I will say, though, I'm very grateful for my genetics, because I definitely don't think I look 30. And I get that a lot. But aside from that, I'm also like, I'm all about taking care of myself. Wellness is not just mentally. I've been consistently going to the gym. I've been consistently trying to make myself happy. Going to the gym has become not a way to attain a body goal, but it's become a therapeutic expression of my happiness and a way to really keep the peace for me. And I love sharing that with people. And it's a great conversation starter, to be honest. It's not about attaining a body goal. It's about a lifestyle that you have to entirely commit to and change. Because I have to stick to a certain diet. I have to stick to going every day and showing up for myself every day. And those are the small things that people forget contribute to your self-love and your self-care and your self-wellness. And I hope that is something that everyone can, it's one of the, I feel like one of the most common things that most people can find and start and begin to really dive into that self-love journey. I just wanted to quickly say this before I say goodbye to this Airbnb and go home and deal with my flooded basement. And even with all the shit that's going wrong in my life, I know that there's been so much growth in me personally because I'm not handling it the way that I would typically handle it. I would normally crash the fuck out and I would just not be able to do any of this. I would not be able to, I'd be so unhappy right now, but I'm not going to let any of it interfere with my happiness and my joy, because my happiness and my joy are not defined by external factors and the things that I cannot control. So I just wanted to quickly hop on here and just say hi, because it's been a long time since I've done that. And I promise I'm going to do my best to continue to be consistent as much as I can again. And you guys will see me in a new space. I have new ideas, new things that I want to bring to you guys. And I hope that you guys enjoy it. I hope that you guys will stay along and ride this new wave with me and just enjoy this journey that I have coming up. It's not because I'm turning 30 or anything. It's literally because I finally found the resources that I need to actually take my podcast in the direction that I've always wanted to take it. So, thank you guys so much for following along and being here in my 30s with me. And I want to make sure you guys also know, you don't just call me a podcaster. I am now Sab, a journalist and host of Suffering of Silence. So thank you so much, guys, for just being here. That's all. Just being here. That's all I can ever ask of anyone. And I hope you guys enjoy this next part of my experience and my journey. And make sure you follow along on TikTok and Instagram, as always, at Suffering of Silence Pod. And you can also find this podcast wherever you get podcasts. So thanks again for being subscribers. Talk to y'all later.